Hello, and welcome to our first episode of Ready Set Spoilers, a show where we look back at different movies, TV shows, and music throughout the decades. We're your hosts, Farrell and Tim, and we have an exciting show planned today. Today's episode, we will look back to the 2010s and see which movies, TV shows, and music were trending and give our honest, raw opinions about them. Without further ado, let's jump right into our first segment, Rotten or Fresh.
The 2010s brought us many hits with some of the greatest TV shows of all time. Thanks to streaming services such as Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Disney Plus, etc. Viewers have a wide variety of shows they can view at any time. Today, Pharaoh and I will discuss 5 of the most popular shows that have come out of the 2000s and say if we find them fresh or rotten.
Our first show we will be reviewing is perhaps one of the greatest shows in all of television and maybe the most expensive, Game of Thrones. Now, Tim, I obviously rank this show fresh. Now, how about you?
Although the last season did not live up to the expectation of the fans, I would still rank this show as fresh. Now, if you had to choose, which would you say is your favorite episode?
I have to say the Red Wedding episode is probably one of the greatest episodes ever in television history. I mean, if you read the book, you kind of expected that to happen, but as a viewer who hasn't, it completely took me by surprise.
I agree. That was one of my favorites too. It got a lot of media attention and it really solidified the fact that they weren't afraid to kill anyone off.
No, I completely agree. Some deaths took me by surprise, and I was devastated, and especially when Ned died in season 1. Seeing a character as big as him die so early on made me invested to the series.
Yeah, not only was his death shocking, but when Jon Snow supposedly died, I literally screamed at my TV. Thankfully he didn't, really, because if he did, I don't know how I could have watched without him.
Yes, scenes like this kept viewers on the edge of their seats as none of their favorite characters were ever safe.
Definitely, a fresh show worth the hype, except ignore the last season.
Now you can't mention Game of Thrones without mentioning another classic from the 2010s, The Walking Dead. Now I give this show a fresh score. How about you?
I've got to disagree with you. I rate this show as rotten.
What? How could you rate The Walking Dead as rotten? That show has given us unforgettable moments and scenes that make you want to cry.
I guess there might have been some good moments, but overall I just found the show to be very boring. I watched the first 2 seasons, I gave it an honest chance, but it just felt very slow for my taste. I needed a bit more action.
I mean, I guess I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, there has been plenty of action. Just look at the season 6 when Negan shows up for the first time and kills our beloved Glenn, who, by the way, just found out that he was having a kid, and Negan killed him with a baseball bat right in front of his pregnant girlfriend.
Oh, dang, spoiler alert. Hey, I wasn't going to watch it anyways.
Yes, it was a very sad moment, but I'm still not over it happening.
I mean, that sounds depressing and all, but you cannot deny the fact that The Walking Dead started off very boring and now it's going on far too long. I mean, how many characters are still around from the first season? Exactly none, because they're all dead.
I get where you're coming from, but to say that The Walking Dead is boring is a complete lie. It has given us so many great moments over the years.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there. There are far too many things wrong with that show than there are good.
Well, I guess we are going to have to agree to disagree. Now, the next show we will review is a classic show about a family living in Southside Chicago, Shameless. Now, what would you score this show?
Well, I actually really enjoyed Shameless, so I have to give it a fresh score.
I would have to agree with that. Shameless is a unique show with a fresh concept. Was there anything that you liked particularly about the show?
I really liked how Shameless wasn't afraid to discuss hard concepts such as depression, alcoholism, and LGBTQ plus matters. My personal favorite from the show would have to be when Fiona finally stands up to her mother, who has abandoned the family and left her in charge of her 4 younger siblings. That scene where she tells Monica off was extremely powerful. So props to Emmy Rossum for giving such a great performance.
No, definitely. That scene was excellent, and since it happened early on, it gave us a great insight on what to expect from this show. Now, my personal favorites would have to be any scenes with Ian and Mickey, as I loved watching their relationship grow from two people who were too scared to come out to dating publicly, then finally getting married. Their relationship is one of the best in television history. Now, I think it's time to switch gears and talk about some shows that are a little more lighthearted. Let's start off with Parks and Recreation. Now, I know a majority of people disagree with me, but I'm gonna have to rate the show as rotten.
I have to agree with the majority on this. Parks and Recreation is one of the funniest shows I've ever seen on, and dare I say, even better than The Office.
You might start a feud with claims like that, but you really think so? Why is that?
I found it to be hilarious, heartful, and it really made me fall in love with the characters.
Maybe, but how is it better than The Office?
The characters are more likable, it has goofy scenes of humor, and is just overall a top-tier comedy series. It takes the Office formula and ends up doing it better.
You see, I have to disagree with you there. Characters from Parks and Rec are nowhere near as funny as The Office. I mean, Park and Rec did have its moments, and I think Andy was funny at times, but to say it's better than The Office would be a lie.
Well, I really love Parks and Recreation, and maybe you should try to watch it without comparing it to The Office.
I think that's true, but for now, I think it's still rotten.
Modern Family is a mockumentary-style comedy that focuses on the antics of three ordinary families in Los Angeles, California. With 85 Emmy nominations and 22 wins under its belt, it's safe to say Modern Family will remain a classic. It would be hard to rate this show anything other than fresh.
I couldn't agree with you more. I remember watching the first episode years ago and immediately falling in love with the show. I think what got me so invested at first was the unique style of the show. It was in this mockumentary style where the characters would speak directly to the camera in an interview style in small segments, but then carry on in between as if there was no one recording them.
Yeah, and I think the most interesting part about that is that they never addressed that in the show. That they never addressed that in the show. They do these interviews segments as if someone is recording them, but it's just never once brought up who is recording them and why. You never really notice it, however, while watching until you really stop to think about it.
Right. I also have to say, I absolutely loved all the characters in the family dynamic the three main families had with each other. They brought together all different types of people that might not always understand each other and showed how they are constantly going through conflict and then would achieve resolution like a real family would.
I have to agree Modern Family is such a heartful show. Giving it any score besides fresh would be a disservice.
That's it for our segment, Fresh or Rotten. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
We're helping our classmates.
Thank you. Aquí ayudamos a quienes les gusta comer postres ricos.
I'm helping my customers.
Sim, muito obrigado. Tchauzinho. Eu estou a fazer isto para ajudar a minha família, comunidade e amigos.
Hi, my name is Marconi Gavis, the health director for the Township Community. Getting vaccinated is the best way to ensure that we continue to help others in our community. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, and free. So please continue to help your community by getting vaccinated at one of our upcoming vaccination clinics. Remember, together we can help our community.
What are you doing in there? What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
think it's just vapor with flavor.
It won't hurt my kid like cigarettes, right?
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
My kid?
My kid
knows it's dangerous.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Ready, Set, Spoiler. This week, we are covering the entire decade of 2010's top hits. This was a very interesting decade for artists of many genres, but I like to argue that the rap genre dominated this decade.
According to Billboard, R&B and hip-hop has been the dominant music genre to the United States Billboard charts, becoming bigger than pop and rock and coming to define modern popular music. We had artists like Kanye West and Drake dominating the charts with albums such as My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, The Life of Pablo, and Take Care.
Aside from commercial success, the activist notions in rap music definitely helped expand the genre. The 2010s was a decade of extending arms for help, for justice. Music became a reflection of everyday life.
One of the most important milestones in this decade of rap took place on February 14th, 2011, with Tyler, the Creator's first hit titled Yonkers. It opened the door to a different sound and approach to the genre as a whole. Tyler was very instrumental in opening up the conversation around the sexuality in rap and R&B, along with artists like Frank Ocean. With the release of his album Flower Boy in 2017, he opens up about his past sexual exploration and experiences he's had. Tyler would continue to experiment with sound and voice, especially with the release of his magnum opus, Igor.
Along with rap, we saw the inception of many pop icons like Taylor Swift dominate the pop charts with tracks like Shake It Off and Bad Blood. Later in the decade, we are able to see the rise of young pop star Billie Eilish, debuting #1 with her studio album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? Fusing elements of multiple genres to create her unique sound. We can't discuss this decade without mentioning The Weeknd, amazing his fan base with his studio album Beauty Behind the Madness, which released in 2015, debuting at #1.
Through the decade, the sound of pop has evolved drastically. Acts like Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, and Bruno Mars really maintained pop in its glory days in the early 2000s. Although hip-hop surpassed pop in the most popular genre, there are still amazing artists that are continuing to establish their lanes, such as Harry Styles, The Weeknd, and Ariana Grande.
Now it's time to play Guess the Lyric. Here's how it works. We are going to take turns guessing lyrics to the most well-known songs of the era. We will have the most of the lyrics on the card we are holding, and then there will be blank spaces for the next line. It will be up to us to finish the line correctly. We take turns reading the lyrics and guessing. For everyone you get right, you get a point. The person at the end with the most points wins.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll read the lyrics and you guess first, then we will switch. Ready?
Sure am.
Song #1. We've come too far to give up who we are. So let's raise the bar and our cup to the stars.
Of course you have to start with the hard one, pauses. I honestly have no idea what it is.
The correct answer is She's Up All Night to Get Some from Daft Punk's 2013 hit, Get Lucky.
Dang it. Should have gotten that one anyways. It's your turn.
Bring it.
You're insecure, don't know what for. You're turning heads when you walk through the door. Don't make up to cover up.
Oh, that's easy. This is One Direction, What Makes You Beautiful. And the lyrics are being the way you are is enough.
Dang it, I made that too easy for you. But yes, you are correct. Okay, the score is now 0-1. You are in the lead.
Let's go. All right, now it's your turn to guess. The scars of your love remind me of us. They keep thinking that we almost had it all. The scars of your love, they leave me breathless. I can't help feeling.
We could have had it all, Rolling in the Deep. This is obviously Adele's Rolling in the Deep, a classic pop song from the 2010s. Was no way I was getting this wrong.
Alright, yeah. You are right. The score is now 1-1. Let's move on to the next song now.
I'm living in that 21st century doing something mean to it. Do it better than anybody you've ever seen do it. Screams for the haters, got a nice ring to it.
Oh, I got this. I guess every superhero needs his theme music.
Gosh, you are right again. Thought that one would trip you up, but I guess not. The score is now 2-1.
Kanye West is a legend. No way I was getting one of his songs wrong. Anyways, the score is now 2-1. Here's the next song. My seat's been taken by some sunglasses asking about a scar. And I know I gave it to you months ago, and I know you're trying to forget, but between the drinks and subtle things.
Really? Another hard one, huh?
Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. But anyways, you have a few seconds left.
Time
is up. The correct answer is The Holes, in my apologies. You know I'm trying hard to take it back. The song is We Are Young by Fun. Score is still 2-1.
Yeah, there was no way I was getting that one right. But anyways, it's your turn here. Is there lyrics now? Somebody please tell him who I is. I am Nicki Minaj. I mac them dudes up, back cups up, and chuck the deuce up.
Well, this is obviously Nicki Minaj, but I'm not quite sure the lyrics. I give up.
Well, you're right. This is Nicki Minaj, and the song is super bass. However, the correct lyrics are, boy, you got my heartbeat running away, beating like a drum, and it's coming your way.
Sounds familiar, but I wouldn't have got it. The score is still 2-1.
I need this next one to stay in there. Let's hope it's not hard.
Here's the next song. She told me don't worry about it. She told me don't worry no more. You both know you can't go without it.
Gosh, I know this. I know this is I Can't Feel My Face by The Weeknd, but the lyrics are tripping me up a bit. Let me think. She told me you'll never be alone. Oh, woohoo!
I was close, but yes, you are correct. Way to stay in there. The score is tied 2-2.
Let's go. All right, time for the final song. If you get this right, you win. But if not, then we tie. Ever since I left the city, you got a reputation for yourself. Now everybody knows and I feel left out.
Let me think about this. Oh wait, it's Girl, You Got Me Down, You Got Me Stressed Out. This is Hotline Bling by Drake.
And you are correct, which makes the final score today 3-2, and you are the winner.
That's great. What do I win?
Well, Pharaoh, you get the opportunity to lead viewers into the next segment.
Wow, aren't I lucky? But that's it for this segment of Guess the Lyric. We will take a quick commercial break, then come right back to discuss the best movies of the 2010s. Don't go away.
What are you doing in there? What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
We're helping our classmates.
Thank you. Aquí ayudamos a quienes les gusta comer postres ricos.
I'm helping my customers.
Sim, muito obrigado. Tchauzinho. Eu estou a fazer isto para ajudar a minha família, comunidade e amigos.
Hi, my name is Marconi Gavis, the health director for the Township Community. Getting vaccinated is the best way to ensure that we continue to help others in our community. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, and free. So please continue to help your community by getting vaccinated at one of our upcoming vaccination clinics. Remember, together we can help our community.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
I think it's just vapor with flavor.
It won't hurt my kid like cigarettes, right?
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
My kid?
My kid
knows it's dangerous.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Welcome back to our next segment, Movie Mayhem. This segment will discuss some of the greatest movies that have come out in recent history, and I gotta tell you, there are plenty to choose from. In the 2010, superhero movies took off. Following the major success of the Dark Knight trilogy, and the MCU hit like Iron Man and Captain America, and the culmination of the early MCU movies such as 2012's The Avengers started the trend that has only heated up in the past decade.
Out of the 20 highest grossing movies of all time, the MCU has 6 movies, all of which came out in the last decade. It is pretty fair to say that this franchise and other superhero franchise like the DCEU has now become a part of our cinematic and popular culture.
Of the top highest grossing franchises of all time, the MCU has a clear and vast lead. In third place is Spider-Man. The top 11 includes the Avengers as its own franchise, and X-Men, Batman, and then the DC Extended Universe, respectively.
Acclaimed director Martin Scorsese stated that in a New York Times article that movies like the Dark Knight trilogy and Marvel films are non-cinematic. In my opinion, to call these movies not cinema is kind of a wild accusation.
I would definitely have to agree with you there. These movies mostly have a clear message and direction that follows the structure of what makes a movie a movie. I understand that movies like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and most of the Batman movies are not the most artsy or Oscar bait movies like Scorsese's The Irishman or The Wolf of Wall Street, but these movies mostly accomplish what they are set out to do, which is to entertain the audience.
Yeah. And if nothing else, the gross amounts of box office success that these types of movies make speaks for themselves. Not only are they cinema, but one of the most entertaining kinds of cinema.
Talking about cinematic, superhero movies literally took the 2010s by storm. You had Marvel killing it with the constant movies coming out, all leading to what I thought was the craziest finale to a story ever.
You're right about that. One, Endgame was a classic. But if we are comparing the Avengers movies, the Infinity War was superior.
What? You're telling me you liked Infinity War more than Endgame?
Yeah, I'm not saying Endgame was bad because I enjoyed it, but it was very long and a bit repetitive.
Too long. Do you realize the amount of information and storylines going on during the Endgame? I get that it was long, but not once did I think the story was boring. If you want to talk about a movie that went on too long, then the Justice League Snyder Cut takes the win.
Hold up. Don't start dissing the Snyder Cut. It was great considering what we originally got.
Well, yeah, the first one sucked, but Snyder's version wasn't much better. The only thing he has going for him in that one after credit scene.
Now, that is not true. There were plenty of things that made Snyder's version really good. For starters, the ending sequence was better. We got to see and hear more about Darkseid, and Steppenwolf looked a lot better.
I agree with you on that one. But think about it. Endgame did twice as much as the Justice League in a shorter amount of time and brought full circle everything that was culminating over the past 10 years. Plus, it only took them one time, whereas we had like 500 different Justice League stories.
Yeah, you can say that, but you know, DC did try to catch up to what they were doing. Like, come on, have you seen Batman vs. Superman? Or at least Wonder Woman? Man of Steel? Aquaman? That movie was like one of the first DC movies to hit $1 billion in the box office.
That's true, but honestly speaking, they went all over the place. I mean, how are you gonna form the Justice League out of thin air like that?
Okay, you're right. It was rushed, I'll admit that, but we still have brought some pretty good movies into the table. DC may not have been all organized or released its movies periodically, but it still had some fire movies.
I don't know about that one. Last DC movie I remember hearing about was The Suicide Squad, and I heard that it sucked.
Okay, Captain Thor, The Dark World, or do you prefer to keep that movie a secret?
Okay, sure, we may have a couple of bumps in the road, but...
Hold up. Before you go and have you at least considering watching the DCAU? I mean, come on, DC's animated movies are probably the best animated movies to date. Marvel tried it, but that's where DC is king.
It's funny you mention it, because I won't argue with you there. I've seen some of them, and I have to admit, they are pretty awesome.
See? I love the fact that they told a story with those movies. It started off with the Flashpoint Paradox, literally one of the coolest comic series ever, and it just kept going with several Batman movies, Justice League movies, and some actually good Suicide Squad movies.
You know, that sounds pretty cool, so I just might have to give it a chance.
Trust me, they won't disappoint.
Okay, so enough superhero talk. I want to talk about what I thought were the best movies of the 2010s.
I loved the movies that came out during that decade, and I gotta say, my top 3 have to be Get Out, Inception, and Joker.
Yes, Inception had to be one of the trippiest movies that I've ever seen, and I think it was probably the best movie that Christopher Nolan has made. Honestly, there's just something about Leonardo DiCaprio's performance that just put the nail right in the coffin with that movie and made it so good. But can we talk about the Joker for a second? I mean, come on, Joaquin Phoenix totally killed it with his performance. 10 out of 10, definitely deserved that Oscar.
Agree. The Joker is one of my favorite movies to come out in this decade. I have to admit, I was skeptical at first when Joaquin Phoenix was cast as the Joker. Not that I don't think he's a good actor, which he is, but Heath Ledger's portrayal was out of this world, and I wasn't sure if Phoenix could match it.
No, I hear you. Heath Ledger was insanely good, and Jared Leto, well, he tried.
Jared Leto's portrayal of the Joker is something I like to forget about. Besides that, what was your favorite part in the latest Joker film? Mine has to be staircase scene. Something about seeing Arthur being fully transformed into the Joker just after killing someone so brutally in the scene prior is so iconic.
I always got to love that scene, but my favorite would have to be when Arthur kills Murray on the talk show while it's live on air. Man, that scene gives me chills.
Right. When he gives that whole monologue, then all of a sudden shoots Murray, and then you hear the song That's Life playing in the background. I got to say, Todd Phillips directed that scene beautifully.
You know, I thought this decade also made a ridiculous amount of insanely good horror movies. I mean, we had Insidious, Midsommar, Hereditary, and I could just go on, but the movie that made a huge impact on me personally has to be Get Out.
Yes, that was one hell of a controversial movie. I mean, the sheer fact that Jordan Peele from Key & Peele, who is also best known for his amazing work in comedy, wrote and directed a horror movie, that caught my attention, and honestly, he didn't disappoint.
And don't forget, this was during the Trump administration, so the country was essentially in a divided state. Politics aside, I think it was a very influential horror movie.
Agree with you there. Get Out was a fantastic movie and definitely worth the hype.
Well, folks, that's all we have for today's episode. We hope that we covered some of your favorite shows and films from the 2010s. Thank you for watching, and make sure to tune in next week because we have another great show in store. See you later.